Most students come to the LSAT thinking, if I just do more questions, more sections, more hours, I'm gonna improve. But that's like thinking, if I spend more hours at the gym, I'll get fit without asking what you're doing at the gym. It's not about volume, it's about focus. Most people don't have a prep problem, they have a clarity problem. They're doing everything, reading guides, drilling question types, watching every video they can find, and they're wondering why their score isn't budging. It's because they're trying to catch 4 different tennis balls at once. Logical reasoning, reading comp, test anxiety, time management, all flying at them at the exact same time. Of course they drop them. But here's the paradox. Simplicity is harder than complexity. It's easy to build a bloated study schedule that makes you feel productive, but it's harder to sit down, take a hard look at your last practice test and say, where specifically am I losing the most points? That kind of honesty requires you to stop hiding behind being busy. It forces you to take ownership of your process. And when you do that, when you get radically clear on what your weakest link is, everything changes. Now here's the concept that changed everything for me and thousands of my students. Every LSAT student has a bottleneck. One single bottleneck. Not 5, not 10, 1. It's the specific area that's dragging your score down the most. And when you fix that one thing, your score can jump fast, like 10, 15, 20 points fast. Let's break that down. Say you're scoring in the 150s, and every time you take a practice test, you bomb reading comp. You finish 2 passages, you rush the 3rd, and you don't even get to the 4th. That's your bottleneck. It's not that you're bad at the LSAT, it's that you haven't learned how to attack reading comp with a strategy that works for your brain. Or maybe you're decent at reading comp, but logical reasoning feels like mental quicksand. You read the stimulus, the question stem, and by the time you get to the choices, you can't even remember what the argument said. That's your bottleneck. Or maybe you know the section's cold, but when it's test day, the clock starts and you freeze. That's not about logic, that's about psychology. Also a bottleneck. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is, until you isolate and fix that one issue, nothing else will move. So let's talk about how you find your bottleneck. Start with your most recent practice test. Print it out, go section by section. Ask yourself, where did I lose the most points? Which types gave me that gut punch feeling of, I have no idea what's going on? Which section drained my energy the fastest? And which questions did I get wrong, even though I felt confident in my answer? That's where the clues live. Your bottleneck will show up in patterns. Like for example, maybe you consistently miss parallel reasoning questions, or maybe you always run out of time in reading comp, or maybe you often second guess yourself on flaw questions. Once you spot the pattern, that's your next move. You don't need to fix everything, you just need to fix that. Now here's where you might feel some resistance. You might say to yourself, but I'm supposed to study every section. I don't want to fall behind in reading comp. Let me be blunt. You're not falling behind, you're getting focused. If your bottleneck is logical reasoning, you could take a 2-week break from everything else. Seriously, that is the fastest path for you to get results. Not making shallow progress in 5 different areas, but real growth in one area. Most people never do this. They dabble with a bit of this, a bit of that, and they stay in a cycle of average effort across too many fronts. Meanwhile, top scorers work on the exact same inference question for 20 minutes, asking, why did I pick the wrong answer? What made it attractive? What should I have seen? And how can I spot it instantly next time around? They're not just trying to check boxes, they are building up their intuition, and that's what leads to real gains. So let's say you've decided to tackle reading comp once and for all. You're not just going to do reading comp, that's not enough. You've got to ask yourself some key questions, like, is it that I lose focus midway through the passage? Or is it that I don't understand abstract passages like in law, science, or philosophy? Or maybe it's that inference questions trip me up. The more specific your diagnosis, the more powerful your prep will be. That is the difference between average and elite, the difference between 160 and 170. Average students say, I'm bad at reading comp, but top scorers say, I lose track of the author's attitude on dense philosophy passages, which hurts me in main point and tone questions. You see the difference? One leads to guesswork, but the other leads to progress. So let's add some urgency into this to make sure you actually do it. Once you know your bottleneck and cut the clutter, you set a short-term deadline. 2 weeks, not 6 weeks, 2 weeks. And here's why. When you give yourself too much time, your brain relaxes and you coast. You tell yourself, oh, I'll do it when I have time. But when you say, I have 14 days to crack this, you show up differently. You get obsessed. You journal your mistakes. You talk out your reasoning out loud, and that causes you to build momentum fast. It's like total immersion, like learning a language by going to the country instead of downloading Duolingo. You want to live inside your weak point for 2 weeks, and it feels like boot camp for that particular skill. And when you do that, you come out the other side a different student. Now, here's the part that gets missed. When you improve in one skill, the rest of your score often improves too. If you fix logical reasoning, suddenly you get better at reading comp also because you see arguments more clearly. If you fix your pacing in reading comp, you walk into logical reasoning with less mental fatigue. If you fix your test day mindset, suddenly all your prep shows up when it counts. That's the compounding effect of doing deep work. It's not just about one section, it's about freeing up brain power that was previously tied up in stress, confusion, or overthinking. So if your LSAT prep feels scattered, if your score is stuck, if you're working hard and not seeing results, it's not because you're lazy, it's not because you're not smart enough, it's because you're trying to juggle too many tennis balls. Stop juggling, pick one, and catch it. Do less and do better. That's how you break through, that's how you unlock a new level of performance, and that's how you go from stuck to unstoppable, and that's how you win the LSAT.